that I can. But sometimes I come out as being nothing. I pray to God that he make me a better man. Maybe one day I'ma stand for something.
Feels good to be back.
Tell me ain't nobody better than me. I think that there's better than me. Hope you see the better in me. Always end up better in me. I don't wanna ruin this one. This type of love don't always come and go.
They are raring to go, and so are we.
This type of love don't always come and go.
Welcome everybody to the college football season.
What is up, everybody? I am your host, Kevin Coleman, at @theboys_22, and this is the Triple Play Fantasy Network YouTube channel. And I am back with another edition of our Top 25 Devy series. I really appreciate all the support that we've been getting so far. I just love college football, and it's coming close. We're in July now, baby, and it's getting there. And I'm excited to kind of cover these teams, where they're at. Like always, I'm covering Devy assets for Devy Fantasy and C2C assets for Devy Fantasy. But I also like to think that this is a very good preview for what you can expect from the offensive side. I also do cover the recruiting class, the 2022 recruiting class, with a little defense sprinkled in. I'm not a big defense guy. I don't play IDP, but I do like to say we struggle. I'd like to focus on the offensive side. We'll go over the schedule, all of that, film, breakdowns like that. So even if you're not a Devy or a fantasy person, if you're a Georgia fan, this will also help and be cool to see, I think, unless I say something bad about Georgia. Don't come after me in those comment sections. But let's take a look at Georgia. Devy breakdown here. We've been covering the last few teams. Georgia's on the docket next. And let's go over what, Kirby's got going on down there and with what he's had. Now, as far as the schedule goes, if we take a look at their schedule, they got Clemson first game of the year. Like I've been talking about multiple times, especially with the Clemson video, that's the game of the year for them. Like when they look at it, when you look at their schedule, they missed a lot of good teams in the SEC. So they have Clemson the first game in Charlotte, neutral field. Who's going to win? And I think this will set the tone for who they are. Now, I actually think Georgia may be a better team than Clemson in terms of personnel, maybe not defensively, but I think their offense has a little bit less question marks, unless those guys that we talked about in Clemson can kind of step up. But if you're looking at it from a perspective of like who may have the better team coming out in that first game, I think Georgia has a slight advantage. Now, if they win that game, they're playing UAB, South Carolina, Vanderbilt, nothing really to worry about there. Arkansas, maybe Auburn, but Auburn's kind of going through a rebuild there. Can they really rely on Bo Nix? Kentucky, Florida could be an interesting, but again, they're kind of retooling a little bit after Trask and Pitts and those guys have left. Missouri, Tennessee, Georgia Tech. Like when you look at that schedule, based on who they have on that roster, based on where they're at in terms of just talent-wise, if they beat Clemson, there's a realistic possibility that they go undefeated. I mean, it's not out of the question. I know they have hiccups every once in a while, but it really is going to come down to one man. And that's where we're going to go with our depth chart breakdown. And obviously, we're going to go through each. On each one, you're going to see ADP. You're going to see athletes, their stats from last year or their prep stats. We're going to go through each one, but we obviously start with quarterbacks first. Let's talk about JT Daniels. JT Daniels right now is QB 10 in ADP, 42.94. Stetson Bennett's going to be there. Carson Beck's going to be there. But the two quarterbacks that you want to own in terms of Devy leagues is JT Daniels and Brock Vandagriff. Brock Vandagriff is going as 87.01 and QB 19. Now, when we look at ADP right now, JT Daniels is going as QB 10. So he's going behind guys like this: Keaton Slovis, Jaden Daniels, CJ Stroud, Caleb Williams, Carson Strong. So he's going around those guys. I actually think that's a little low for JT. JT is a very frustrating person to watch. Now, when we look at what he did last year, now remember, JT was dealing with an injury, so he transferred from USC after he tore his ACL, came back last year in 4 games at Georgia. He was 84-19, 1,231 yards, 10 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And he bumped up his completion rate by almost 8%. From his freshman year at USC, where he had 2,600 yards passing, 14 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, and a 59% completion rate. So you saw him bump up his stats from USC to Georgia. And I think, like you looked at last year, I don't know how much we could take away from his game, his senior year, his first year with Georgia, because he was coming back from that injury. I think there's a lot more things that were going on with that knee than we would like, because he didn't come out right away. When he did play, Georgia did look better. Now, let's take a look at just his film from last year and what you like from him. So, I will say this: JT Daniels is a frustrating quarterback to watch sometimes because he has all the tools. He's polished. He has good arm strength. He's intelligent. He picks up offenses quickly. He did it at Georgia last year. He picks up on reads very well. He does a very good job of breaking down his reads and going through the right process. He also only trailed Mac Jones in the Power 5 last year with 11.3 adjusted yards per attempt. So he pushes that ball downfield. And you notice that about his film. Like, he pushes it. He looks downfield. He looks for his guys. He looks for his athletes. Last year was George Pickens. Unfortunately, Pickens is, tore his ACL, so he's going to be out. But he likes to find his athletes, likes to go downfield. So he puts pressure on defenses, which you have to do in the SEC. The problem with the SEC is they have great defenses. SEC. So when you look at that, you're going to have to really say, okay, will he be able to push that ball downfield and not make mistakes? So, like I said, he only had 2 interceptions last year, but he can tend to take a little bit more risk than I like to see from him as a passer. Relatively, when you look at where he's at, he really struggled with his footwork. So if I had any weaknesses for him or things that he needs to work on, is it's inconsistent. Like, when he does get his feet set, when he does get on platform, when he makes his throws, cross his body, everything looks great when he's doing things right with his footwork. After his footwork breaks down, though, on the out of the pocket, he can struggle sometimes, and that really is where he makes a lot of mistakes in terms of his mechanics, which leads to interceptions. And you saw that a lot his freshman year at USC. Last year, you saw it sometimes. He misses throws. He does a lot of different things. So the biggest question mark is, can he develop that footwork, make it consistent, then make the throws? If he does that, we're talking about Georgia being a playoff team. If he struggles with that, makes mistakes in the SEC and against like those great teams, they're the defenses that we see, especially if they make it to the conference championship game. That's, I think, the biggest question mark with JT. He has the most to prove and gain this year. Like, he could realistically vault into that category of, hey, can he be a top guy? So when you look at him right now, I have him just outside. I believe the top 5 is really close, or he's at 5. Can he get in that 3 category? Because after Sam Howell and Spencer Rattler, who's he going to be? Malik Willis, Carson Strong, Matt Corral. I love all those guys. A little lower on Malik, but could JT get into that? Sure. I think from a fantasy perspective, though, if we're just looking at it from that, he's going to not be a rushing quarterback. So that limits his upside, right? We know that they got to be able to run. We like that Konami code. It's a cheat code for fantasy purposes. Will he ever do that? I don't think he can. So from his fantasy perspective, I worry about that long-term success there, but he's a very solid QB. Little things to work on, but he can be a very, very, very solid QB2 option in fantasy. Now, where he's getting drafted at, I think he's a little higher in terms of QB1-ish, but I think if you're drafting a C2C, he's going to see a lot of work. Now, let's go to the running back core. Running backs, I love them. Zamir White, James Cook, Kendall Milton's my guy. Kenny McIntosh is there, Dejon Edwards. But the guys that we're going to look at is Zamir White and Kendall Milton. Zamir White right now is going as running back 22. Zeus, guy's strong as hell. He's a young runner that I really have liked ever since he came out of high school. He's dealt with some ACL injuries, and that's why you kind of see him struggling a little bit and where he's at in terms of his ADP, which is running back 22. Kendall Milton is the guy that I really like. And when we're talking about Kendall, where we're looking at, okay, where are you comfortable taking him? Right now, he's going as running back 10, which is right around Jace McClellan, Eric Gray, DeMontre Trammon, Zachary Evans, Kyron Williams. I think that Kendall should be getting drafted ahead of Kyron based on profile. And we'll talk about what his size looks like in there. Zamir is actually a value. Like, Zamir right now is going around Jerrion Ely. Jerrion Ely is actually getting drafted before Zamir. I think that's kind of a mistake. Jerome Ford's going around that time, Sincere McCormick, Noah Kane. So he's going on that weird tier, like tier 3-ish of like older guys. Can they break through? I think Zamir can. So let's take a look at Zamir first. 6 foot 215, and he's strong. I think they were talking about, I read an article one time that he was squatting 700, 800 pounds in high school. Like, his lower frame is big, strong. He's going to break tackles. Last year, he had 144 attempts, 779 yards, 11 touchdowns. He only had 6 receptions, 37 yards. So we're going to talk about that in terms of like his ability to be a receiving threat, which I think limits his upside, especially in PPR leagues. But first of all, he's a downhill runner. So you're going to love this about Zamir. He's just going to go downhill. He's going to score touchdowns. He explodes through the line too. Like, he doesn't have great long speed, but you're going to see him be able to explode through there and actually, and you'll see here, he has the ability to kind of get out of there. He's got good speed. He's got good agility, good balance. He gets hit. And I think what he does is he stays low and just explodes to that offensive line. You'll see it here. Like, he's great, explodes, one-cut ability. He's elusive enough to get through there. He has physical running style. Like, he's a physical runner downhill, is going to score touchdowns. So I think that's where he's at. And he can make people miss. He has good feet. He's got good cutback lanes. He has that ability inside the tackle box. I think that's where his value is going to be, is inside the tackle box and reading holes. He does a good job. He does a lot of good things well. I think the problem is he didn't have that breakout year. We haven't seen him really come on, and he's going to get caught like you see here. Like, that's the part of it. He also has those ACL tears. He has 2 different ones. We got to think of injuries. Georgia, for some reason, the ACLs are just one of those things that they deal with a lot more than other people. So what is his agility in space didn't look great last year. Now, that could be comped up to a couple of things. He's timid with that injury, so he could get better, right? So we can't just write him off there. And maybe he doesn't have it, but I think that we're going to see a little bit of a better elusiveness in the open field. We're never going to see that long speed, so that is something that I really covet. I love to see them being able to break away, have that speed. I don't think that's going to be Zamir's game, but he can be probably a 3-down running back because he has the ability to pass block. He's one of the best pass blocking backs in the college football, so he's going to have that. And while fantasy doesn't matter, I think it does in terms of staying on the field. I know we don't get all – I love pass blocking, but I know not everybody does there. So he's physical. He has some tightness in his hips, so he can be a little slow there. He's not a great route runner, so I don't think he's going to be a receiving threat, but he's a downhill guy. I think for college purposes, he's a legit back. I think him and Kendall Milton are going to really step up. James Cook will be there too. I think he's going to be kind of a pain for these guys in fantasy's perspective, but him and Kendall Milton have a great 1-2 punch. They're going to lean on this running game a little bit, I think, kind of to limit to make sure JT Daniels doesn't make those mistakes that we kind of mentioned. But if we go to Kendall Milton, this kid, young kid from Clovis, shout out California. As everybody knows, I live close to Clovis, so I got to give my guy a shout out here. From Buchanan, absolute stud, 6'1", 220, 2020 stats. He had 35 attempts last year, 193 yards, 1 reception, and 22 yards. But don't worry about those numbers. Obviously, he didn't get as much playing time as you'd like to see. But this kid is just fast, and you know what? He's strong as hell. Like, he's got good long speed. But his jump cut, like right there, I mean, he's elusive when you saw him in the pocket, in the line of scrimmage. Just watch this run. I'm going to go back because this is my favorite run of his. See him here. He's patient, reads his block, boom, 1 cut, gone. I mean, that corner didn't have a chance right there, and he's going to do that. He's going to do that against a lot of different defenses. He has the ability to kind of break it off. You'll see it here. Again, will he be able to do that in the vaunted SEC in his defenses? I hope so. That's something to be, weary of, watch. But he's a grown-ass man. When you watch him run, that's the thing I love watching him. He's a grown-ass man. He's going to break tackles. He's going to have that 1-cut ability, kind of break it off. He has that. He's going to get significant yards after there. I think he doesn't lose his base very well. He actually gets hit, keeps those feet moving and running. Now, receiving-wise, he didn't really have that much receiving in high school that you saw. You saw it right there for a little bit. I think that the problem that I have with him is that he struggles a little bit in that receiving game. He's got to get a bit. So PPR for fantasy purposes, I think that could be maybe an issue. But he has that ability to break it away. I think he's getting slept on a little bit. I think that he's going to come out. Him and Zamir will definitely split time this year. But absolutely great for Georgia. You got 2 amazing backs. But I think next year is when we're going to see that, hey, wow, Kendall Milton, we got to sleep on this kid. So get him now at what his ADP is going to be fantastic for you guys out there. I like him, though. Like, I really think he's a very solid option at that running back position. I think that he can definitely do a little bit of everything, but his balance is what I love. You watch him get hit. He's able to stay on his feet, create those extra yards, positive gains, right? We're always about positive gains. He has that ability to have those positive gains. And where he's going right now is very fair. Like, I think it's very fair. He's going a little ahead of Eric Gray. I hope Devy Deach isn't watching, but I would definitely do that. I'd probably take Milton over Eric Gray for right now because of perspective. Hey, can he be there? Unless you're looking for someone immediately impact, and I would take Eric Gray. But I think Kendall's going to be that guy we think about, like, wow, he popped. And yeah, we should have noticed that. Now, as far as Georgia wide receivers go, I think this is the question mark, right? When we're talking about receivers, with Pickens being gone with his ACL, now there is a talk that maybe he comes back in November. Who knows? I'm not going to speculate on that because, I'm not going to speculate on that. Now, the guy that we got to talk about real quick is Jermaine Burton. Came on a little bit last year. He's going as wide receiver 9, which is pretty incredible in terms of like who he is as a prospect. Demetrius Robertson is there, Kyrus Jackson. Eric Gilbert transferred from LSU to Florida to who knows where, and into Georgia. I listed him as tight end 1 on here. I think a lot of Devy managers are probably upset right now because if he goes to wide receiver, which Georgia is going to use him as, he's going to lose that tight end designation, which really hurts people in like tight end premium leagues, all those different things. How will they use him? There's a great Georgia video on this. I definitely take a look at it. If you just type in Eric Gilbert, Georgia usage, he talks about how in that offense, what we're going to probably see is them use him in the slot, outside, and we're going to get into Eric Gilbert, so don't worry. But the way that Todd Monken's going to use him, I think they're going to use him everywhere, and it really focuses on how he's going to be able to kind of use that, his talent, his elite talent, to really separate himself. Dominic Blaylock is there. Obviously, I still like Blaylock. I really do. Wide receiver 146 in C2C leagues. Justin Robinson, Marcus Rosemary Jackson, Donnie Mitchell. I know a lot of people like him. And then Jackson Meeks, Aaron Smith, those type of guys there. But in reality, we're going to be focused on two guys right now. And that's Jermaine Burton, 6 foot, 200, big profile, 27 receptions, 404 yards, and 3 touchdowns last year. So he had a pretty solid year last year at wide receiver. The thing about him coming out of high school, is that he just has toughness, and you'll notice that in the film. I love dudes that just have toughness. That's why I like Pickens so much. He's very good at just catching things in coverage. Like, he has good press against the press. He does very well because he has that physical strength. He's just a gamer. Like, and that's the thing that kind of separates him from other guys around his ADP, is that he's going to find open zones. He makes the tough catches. He has pretty good eye discipline. And he makes tough catches in space and in traffic. Like, he's going to get hit and you're going to go get it. 50-50 balls. Like, he's the type of guy that you go give him a chance, he's going to go come down with it. So he has a very good package. He's got size. He's got speed. He's got hands. He's got playmaking ability as well. You notice it here, his eye discipline there. He's dynamic when he catches the ball. And you'll see it. They get him into space. Can he break it? He's going to be there. Like, I like where he is at as a receiver. Like, he's a very solid prospect. Like, to me, day 2 prospect. Like, he's going to have that. Now, can he break out this year? If he does, him and JT Daniels, then we're looking at a different draft capital. But I think day 2 is a very solid draft capital for him. He has the ability to get it deep, stretch the defenses deep with his speed, his release, those type of things. He's pretty dynamic. He's going to contribute. And I think for me, it's upside. 247 Sports had him to Jarvis Landry. I don't think he's as explosive as that. I do think that Burton's going to definitely be able to find space, get first downs, be productive in college, and have that day 2 draft capital. Now, where he's going in terms of his ADP, the only guys I'd probably take ahead of him, depending on where he's at. So he's going as 9. Which I think is a little high for me. I would like Jackson Smith-Njigba from Ohio State. I'm really high on him, as you know if you watched the Ohio State video. I think I would take JSN over him. Drake London's going around that. I don't necessarily mind you taking Burton, but London, I think, is going to still be a very solid wide receiver prospect. Justin Ross, because of the injury, I don't mind you taking Jermaine Burton over them. Quentin Johnson, I probably would take Johnson over him. John Mechie, Jordan Addison, IG Hall, those type of guys. So then you're starting to get in the freshman categories. I don't mind Burton. If you want a solid producer that can maybe get day 2 draft capital, I don't mind that. I think that's a very solid pick there. Now, the next guy we got to talk about is Eric Gilbert, 6'5", 249. I had to throw up an LSU picture because that's the only one I got. I'm sorry, Georgia fans. Don't yell at me right now. But Eric Gilbert came out of high school as one of the top tight ends ever, according to 247 Sports composite score. He had a very, very good year last year. I don't think anything you should worry about Eric Gilbert is on the field. I think that he's a very solid prospect. How he gets used as wide receiver will be interesting to see. So I think that's a question mark that we're going to have to get answered. But like I said, physical, freak, dominant. I believe that, the coaching staff last year at LSU called him Randy Moss. That level of athleticism and that level of kind of just a physical nature specimen that he is. And you'll see it here. They use him in a lot of different ways. They literally do it on the outside. They use him at wide receiver. They use him in the slot. Like, he wasn't just your traditional tight end. So him moving to wide receiver is not a like, oh my God, they can't believe he moved to wide receiver. But his ability to kind of be strong, like look at this grown ass catch right here and catch after the run. He's still a solid prospect. I think the thing for me as far as Devy goes is you're drafting him as a wide receiver now. What can he do? Now where does he go in terms of like ADP? We haven't seen that yet. So for that perspective, I think is interesting to see. But again, he's going to be solid, and I think that he's going to definitely be there. I wouldn't be surprised of him being the second leading target getter on this team with Jermaine. Like he's going to get targets. You're going to see him. He's going to produce. He's a physical freak. Georgia fans should be excited you guys got him because you got another athlete out there. You guys are filled with athletes. Now, can Monken and Kirby do something with those athletes? I think that's always the question mark with Georgia, right? With the Bulldogs. Can they do those type of things? If they can, then I'm excited for it. If they can't, then that's where we're going to get into, hey, Kirby's been struggling with talent placement, how we've been using that. Now, we're going to go over the tight ends, but we're not necessarily going to be looking at them. We're going to be talking about a couple of them. Darnell Washington's going as tight end 7, 130.6. We're going to get into him, but I think that's way too high. John Fitzpatrick, Brock Bowers. Really, the only two guys that are really Devy relevant are Darnell Washington and Brock Bowers. Now, Darnell is 6'7", 265. He's massive, massive guy. He's always been kind of massive. He's pretty maxed out physically. Now, he played at Desert Pines in Las Vegas, Nevada. He needs to work on a couple things. Like, he's a strong pass catcher, and he's a matchup nightmare in the red zone. Okay, he's going to be massive in the red zone. He'll probably score a little bit more touchdowns there. He does a good job of shielding defenders there. But I think the problem with him is that he has good hands. He's got very solid hands. He's not fluid. Like, when you watch him, he's a rumbler tumbler, but running routes and he needs refinement in those categories. And we didn't see that refinement last year. He's a matchup nightmare, though. So he's going to have that ability for Georgia. So, Georgia, you guys should be excited for that in the red zone. But as a Devy prospect, I think he's going way too damn high. Like, give me Cade Otton, give me some of these other guys that I think are going to be better NFL prospects. I think he also struggles as a run blocker. Like, he's going to have to figure that out, get leverage. He's very tall. There's some issues that I have with that. His ability to kind of stay low and drive inline blocking. He does struggle with that. So there are a couple things that I'm very concerned about with him. I think as a Georgia tight end, he'll be all right. But as a Devy prospect, I'm a little worried about. I'd rather go after these guys. So what we're going to talk about in C2C targets is there's two guys that you definitely should go after. The first guy is Brock Vandagriff. I think he's a stud. 6'3", 205, quarterback here out of Georgia. You know, he's a good functional athlete. He's 4'6", 40. He's light on his feet. He can really move around the pocket very well. He's got good athleticism there. He's pass first, but he's going to go down the middle, down the seams. And I think that's where he kind of runs. He has good size, good intangibles, good pocket presence. Mobility is good, and I love his arm strength. The thing about Vandagriff that you're going to have to worry about is that he does struggle with his delivery and accuracy. But those are things that are going to get worked on. I don't necessarily think that's a negative thing. I would be drafting him, though, because after JT Daniels leaves this year, if he goes to the NFL, you're going to have Georgia starting quarterback right there. As a sophomore, you get 2 years of production, probably in C2C formats. I like it. I like Vandagriff where he's going. Just for perspective, the numbers he put up in high school are phenomenal. He threw for over 10,000 yards passing. He had a 68% completion percentage, which was 70% his senior year. Touchdowns, he had 107 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. So that's in his career. He absolutely crushed his high school competition. So he's a guy I'm definitely going after in C2C. And the other guy is Brock Bowers, my guy from Napa, California. Shout out California. Got to give you love. 6'4", 240. Big kid. He's a tight end. He's elite athleticism. He's clocked at a 4.5 40 as a sophomore, and he has a 40-inch vertical. He's got the speed kind of used as a group, as an advantage against linebackers. He's big for safeties. He has good body control. He catches. He's going to catch very well. He has soft hands. I like what I saw from him. Route running is very good. I think he's more refined than Darnell Washington as a receiver. As a junior, because he didn't play his senior year because of COVID, he had 39 catches, 1,000 yards, and 14 touchdowns. He averaged 28.2 yards per catch. So when we're looking at, hey, can this kid be solid as a prospect? I think he can. Brock Bowers is a legit target. And if you look at where his ADP is going right now, he's tied in 24. So people are not sleeping on him as much, but you get him later. I think he might produce this year. I know that might be crazy, but I think they can get him out there because they're going to need those weapons with Pickens going down. Other receivers have been injured. Could they use Brock Bowers in different ways? I think they can because of his elite athleticism. So that's a name to, hey, you might get an early production. Now, my must draft from this is my guy, Kendall Milton. So I'll just be quick on this. I think that he's going to be a formidable running back that we're going to be talking about in that next tier of class. And I think he doesn't have that high of a price. It'll be interesting between him and Jace McClellan because they're getting drafted right next to each other. Which one will be a better NFL prospect? But I think that in Devy formats and C2C formats, I like Kendall with his speed, with his strength, with his ability to break tackles like we mentioned and we watched on the film. So I'm going after him. And that's kind of my perspective of must draft. Now, let's take a look at the recruiting class. So right now, the 2022 recruiting class, which is still early, SEC rank is number 2. They're actually 5th ranked nationally. Last year, they were 4th. And so they Kirby's been recruiting like hell out there. He actually has some great defensive recruits coming in. Malachi Starks is legit. Jalen Walker is legit. Trey West, legit. Killebrew, legit. Like, he's got guys that are going to be playing all over that defense. Now, offensively, like we like to focus on, we're going to be looking at 3 guys when we watch the tape here. Second guy on the tape, but first guy we're going to mention is Jordan James, 5'10", 205, running back. Prep stats. He had 182 attempts, 1,752 yards, 26 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 100 yards, and 1 touchdown. Let me just tell you about Jordan James. Jordan James is going to be the next guy in running back crew in this running back crew that we see in Georgia that is just phenomenal. Right now, he's the 16th rated running back. I believe, or 10 to 16, depending on what you look. He's a great prospect. Like, he had offers from Alabama. He had offers from Florida State. He chose Georgia. So he's got that prospect. We'll mention him. Our quarterback that we're going to go over is Gunnar Stockton. I have a little bit more question marks about him, but 6'1", 221, prep stats. He's looked very good in prep school so far. He's had 68% completion percentage, 9,500 yards, 122 touchdowns, 16 interceptions. He's also had 3,400 yards rushing. This dude is a dual threat, just going to be everywhere on the field. He's a legit prospect. And then you have Denylon Morissette. So Morissette here, 6'1", 200, prep stats. 63 receptions, 824 yards, and 7 touchdowns. So those are the three guys right now are hard recruits. So guys that I know are going to Georgia that definitely can make an impact. So let's take a look at their film, and let's look at each one of these guys. So the thing about Gunnar is, and the one thing that I will say that some people question is, hey, is he playing against top-level talent? And I think that's one area that we're going to have to look at. When you saw those numbers are kind of eye-popping against, hey, how is that talent that he's going against? But he's a stocky prospect. He has an arm. So the thing about him, he's a good athlete. He plays baseball as well. So he's got a multi-sport thing. Can extend plays. He can extend plays. He's a dual threat guy. He's going to find the guys. He's capable of making advanced throws. He's very good in RPO. So when you watch him, he's very good in the RPO situation. You'll see it here, being able to extend. I actually like this throw a lot. The receiver drops it. So if we take a look at this throw, this pretty much shows you what you need to know about him as a prospect. Sees it, doesn't see anything, gets out of the pocket, finds his receiver, gets in there, and can get it there. Now, he does have to kind of load up on big balls, and you'll see that sometimes when he tries to throw it deep. But this throw right here, again, corner end zone, that's kind of system that you're looking at. Hey, can he do that on a consistent basis? I think he can. He can sometimes stare down his receivers too. You'll see it here. He gets away with that with arm strength, but he can get it there. Now, Jordan James, another runner right here. And again, as a runner, I really like what I see from him. He's compact. He runs downhill. You'll notice Georgia has a type at running back. Compact, runs downhill, positive gains. Like, those are his types there. He's physical. He's got enough speed, though, to break off long runs that you see there. He's very efficient. He's elusive. He's got good footwork. And he has that elusive ability there. And he can fit probably in any type of run zone or zone area that you see. And you also see him, he'll be put out there. Now, that was a weird route. If you watch that again, you'll laugh. But, I mean, he has that receiving threat too. So they talked about him being a very good pass blocker as well. He's a thinker of the game, picks up blitzes very well. So there's a lot of things I like about him as a runner. So I think he's going to fit really well with that offense and what he has there. And you'll tell he's a blocker, his ability to kind of set himself apart, and he's just one of those positive yards gainer guys that are going to be that. He's very efficient. So I really like what he's going to be bringing to the table there at Georgia. And he'll get to the outside. Now, he does bounce it a little bit too much outside. When I watched him, he'll do that. But, hey, he has the speed to do it. That's something he's going to have to work on when he goes to an actual SEC program where he's not going to be able to just do that. But you'll see it here. Compact, positive gains, doing the type of things that you'd like to see as a runner. And he's a very solid prospect. Now, if we go to Morissette, Morissette's going to be a developmental guy. Right now, he's a wide receiver 27. He's going to have to develop a little bit. I think his yards after catch ability is really good. And it's not because of speed. It's because of strength, route running. He is very refined as a route runner. It's not something that he's never going to have the speed. You'll see it here. He's going to break free, go through here. He's never going to have that speed that we like to see, but he's very refined in other ways. Strength, route running, size, toughness, ball skills, all those types of things that you like to see. You'll see him here line up in the slot. He has a pretty good release, but you'll see it here. Just bullies his way, past the corner, goes up, 50-50 ball, takes it away. Those are things that he's going to do very, very well for Georgia. And again, Georgia is in that flux of that receiver room, who can step up and do those type of things. I really like him as a route running option. Now, is he ever going to be a top wide receiver in Devy purposes? I don't know. Is he going to have definitely develop that? Can they develop him? I think that's going to be key. He's never going to be a burner on the field, but his route running is very good. I like what I saw out of him. So he's obviously been coached really well. You'll see here, he able to create separation. He does a very good job. He's a very fine player, and Georgia should be happy to have him in that receiver room after this year. But that is kind of your recruiting class, like I said, and that's kind of who to look forward to. We'll keep an eye on if they get anybody else, which they will. But those are the three main guys right now. But again, just to kind of go through everything really quick, there's their schedule. Like I said, Clemson is the main guy. Depth charts, JT Daniels and Brock Vandagriff are two guys I wouldn't mind getting at where their current ADP is at, but Brock Vandagriff definitely is someone I'm looking forward to. Zamir White, Kendall Milton. Obviously, Kendall Milton is my must draft. Zamir White, I think, is a downhill runner that's has a value right now. Wide receiver-wise, Jermaine Burton, can he kind of live up to those expectations? Eric Gilbert, what is he? I think he's the biggest storyline of Georgia of where he goes. And then Darnell Washington, but like I said, Brock Bowers, I think is more refined, and he's going to have a very solid year there. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Tell me what you guys think of for the Georgia Bulldogs and where you think their Devy outlook is going to be. Until next time, I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you guys later.